Today we're going to be building a lightweight wooden gate frame out of nothing but cedar pickets. A little background. I had an old rotting front gate that needed to be replaced. I did plenty of research on other people's solutions, but most of them were 2x4 based, which I was hoping to avoid. 2x4s are super heavy, and the best way to prevent any sag or drag is to have less weight attached to the post to begin with. Cedar pickets are my favorite things to build with because they are lightweight and relatively cheap. I'll be showing my specific measurements on the screen, but be sure to make your own measurements based on your gate size. It's always a good idea to draw out your plans with some good old diagrams. Step 1, making the cuts. This design features a rectangular frame with a diagonal support beam for stability. All I'm using today is a small circular saw, a speed square, and some trigger clamps. That's it. All this info along with my measurements will be listed below in the description. Here we're cutting two 32-inch pieces, four 46 7/8 inch pieces, and the 48.1 inch cross support piece. You can use Pythagorean theorem to calculate the length of your diagonal piece. You know that whole a squared plus b squared equals c squared thing. What you're going to do is add the length squared plus the width squared, and then take the square root of that, and measure your diagonal length. Here's our final cut on this soon-to-be angled cross piece, which is our last cut for now. Let's start building out the frame. We're going to lay down the left and the right 46 7/8 inch pieces, and then on top of those we lay the top and bottom 32 inch pieces. For additional support, we're going to eventually add two more 46 7/8 inch pieces, but that'll be over the diagonal piece, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be using our speed square heavily during this step to make sure we have perfect 90-degree right angles on each of the four corners. Next, we'll drive a screw into each corner to keep everything in place as we build the rest of the frame out. And like I said, as you're screwing everything in, grab that speed square and make sure you have perfect 90-degree angles on each corner. Next up, we'll be making the angled cuts on the diagonal support piece. Before we do that, we'll want to figure out which side the diagonal piece will come down from. It's very important that the bottom diagonal piece connects on the hinge side of the gate. The support is immensely stronger this way compared to the opposite. So let's go ahead and mark where the hinge side top will be. And if you're like me, you're going to already have done all the math when you drew out the measurements initially, so you know the exact angles that you need to cut. However, I like to compare those calculations with physical reality, so I'm going to be lining everything up and drawing the line where the angles should be cut. To do this, I took a spare picket and lined it up with each end and drew the line on the inner edge. And so now that we've got our exact angles, let's go ahead and make the final cuts. If you only have a circular saw, you can pivot your speed square to be parallel with those angle lines we just drew, and then use a small clamp to hold it in place. And that's what I did here. And as you can see, it worked out perfectly. The piece fits right in exactly how we want it to. So let's go ahead and screw the rest of it in, and go ahead and add a couple more screws in each corner now that we have our diagonal piece in place. As soft as these pickets are, it is always a good idea to drill some pilot holes. Why, you ask? So you don't do what I did here and completely bust your finger open after the drill slips off the screw. So let's hurry up and finish this frame before I actually bleed out. And once our diagonal piece is screwed in, we can take those two additional left and right pieces and screw them in on top. Remembering to avoid cutting our fingers open, of course. And that's pretty much it. You've got yourself an extremely cheap, lightweight, nice looking wooden gate. Optionally, you can get your sander out and make sure everything is nice and clean and smooth. I'm using an orbital sander here. I hope you enjoyed making this frame with me. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Stick around if you want to see the before and after and what this gate looks like when I actually mounted it to the front fence. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. This is my first video, so if you like this and want to see what other things I'm up to, go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for more.